When is the best time to publish on social media? Specifically on Facebook, this is a story by Buffer, which is basically a service that's the same as social media auto post, but it's a third party. And they try to, at a real general level, give you the answer to this $1,000,000 question. When is the best time to post on Facebook? So let's open it up to the group, I guess, for a second. If you guys were marketing some event that you want to do in town, let's say, how would you go about doing it? When would you think is the best time to post on social media? Let's just start there.
If it's a local event, I would go at least 2 weeks out.
2 weeks out, okay, right. So that the timing relative to the event is important, but specifically, is there any like time of day that you know of that would be good to reach people in your zip code?
I mean, specifically, I'm thinking of the events that I would do in town and that kind of thing. I would generally aim for Thursday, Friday afternoons, or maybe a Saturday, Sunday morning.
So yeah, with the event type stuff, it's going to be different. That's the point, because if you're looking at something like evergreen news content, you're a publisher, that can really come out at any time. If you've got an event, it's very important when it comes out on Facebook, as early as possible, probably in that case. And with news, breaking news in general, that's a different standard. It's as soon as possible. No matter when it happens, you want to get it out on Facebook. So just those three categories of content, completely different times that are probably ideal to post. That's kind of the thing that you get from all these articles. I'm going to just save you all the time. We've done a bunch of research ourselves and found many different sources claiming to say the best time to post on Facebook. Right here, they're saying best time is between 1 and 3 p.m. during the week and on Saturdays. The thing that they're doing here is they're trying to offer general marketing advice that applies to anyone. And if you get so general and so widely applicable, it kind of starts to lose its value at a certain point. I think this is probably true. If you look at Facebook's overall like aggregate data, this makes sense when people would be the most active, because I guess they're talking about the US, and you think about all the different time zones. Between 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. Eastern is when most of the US is online. But you're not trying to communicate to the whole US as a local publisher, so you gotta look at each case differently. That's kind of the conclusion that this article actually comes to. They did a nice job. They tried to make some general observations, but then they said there really is no universal best time to post on Facebook. So doing this kind of research on your own, you're going to kind of hit a wall, because there is no time that they can tell you without knowing your business. So that's what we're going to try to do, is try to help you figure out what's best for your specific newspaper business, because everyone's going to be different. So that's really the take home that I got from this article. When should you post on Facebook? Let's look at the strategies for figuring out how. Don't just ask the question, give me the time frame. Ask the question, how do I figure out what's best for my audience? So you can look at what the data tells you, or when it's relevant for your content. So let's look at what the data tells you. When it comes to marketing and digital strategy, the best data is always your own. And Facebook has tons of data available on all page admins and owners. So let's take a look at that. I've got the Facebook page for our hometown up here. And this is just a Facebook company page. I'm assuming everyone has a Facebook page for their newspaper at this point. If you don't, you want to set that up. It's a very quick process. It's a great way to connect with people that are already on Facebook, and then we'll talk about the strategy to get them to the website. But once you have the page set up, you're going to have all these admin tools. When you get to the manage page, you can come to here from your personal profile. I think the best way is to go up to the Facebook icon, and then you got some shortcuts here to the pages you manage, and then you go to insights, and then it's going to bring up all these different types of insights I can learn about. We're going to look at posts. This is the only place that I could find this data. It might be elsewhere, but if they have enough data, if you just created this page, they won't have the data yet. But if you've been online and you've got some followers, then they can start to tell you when is the best time to post for your business. I think it's looking at basically a conglomeration of the people that follow our page now. When are those people online? When we post to our page, our followers are going to see it first. But it's also good to know this, because I think we want to get more followers like our current followers. We want to grow that. So if our current followers are online at this time, maybe these potential followers are also out there. So if we're running ads during this time, it might be a good way to get more likes. This is our results. I'm sure it's different for newspapers, maybe more concentrated when the e-edition comes out, when the newsletter is sent out, they might see more activity on Facebook. This is just our followers' overall behavior. So it's not really necessarily when they're looking at our page, it's just when they're on Facebook. All that I would take away from this is I wouldn't want to do it after 9, before 5, but other than that, this just kind of looks like it's all the same to me. That's one thing that you can use to make the decision, among other things.
I think just the big thing that I would stress, and this goes for any social media, is like it all depends on what type of content you're posting. Like
Yes.
that's the big thing. Context. That's the most important thing.
We all know that experience of flipping through a news feed. Just because it's there doesn't mean I'm going to be interested in it at that time. So it is about getting it to them when it's relevant. So let's talk about the second point. This one's less scientific. You can't get numbers for it and make decisions based on that. But if you look at your content, think about when is it going to work best. They're saying some is best in the moment. For example, news about a sports game, the final score. There's no reason to delay on that. Breaking news, also highly relevant for our customers. But I wouldn't generalize it even there. Just because you're in the news business doesn't mean it's all breaking news. So we should think about segmenting by the content in the category, because there is going to be some stuff that's more evergreen. And you also want to think about the fact that it's probably not the best strategy to put every single story from the website on Facebook at the same time, because you got to assume that Facebook's going to filter that and say, okay, we'll choose this fraction of the posts that they just put up. We'll test those and see how they do. If they do okay, we'll show the other stuff that they just threw up there. But if you're posting it spread out, then I feel like Facebook's going to be more inclined to just put it out there and promote it a little more. That's pure speculation. Vera, you've worked with a ton of publishers on it. You've heard all different angles. And like I said earlier, we've got 2 plugins where we can do dump of everything as soon as possible. As soon as it appears on the website, it goes on Facebook, or we can spread it out. What's your opinion on it then, Tyler? Like, which would be better for driving traffic?
I generally don't know. I think the window that we were looking at, that we're getting traffic on, is probably the right one to be looking at in general.
Anytime in that range is reasonable.
I would say so. And I mean, just personally, from my experience in consuming news, 5 to 8, and then maybe like 11 to 1 are good times, because that's just when I'm checking in on things.
Yeah, and then specific, like a little bit more, 11 to 1.
Like morning and lunchtime.
Yeah, it makes sense. So you could accomplish that with the plugin that we have, where you could just schedule by category. Well, there's different things we could do. We could either order the posts so that the news are at the top and they come out first on the website. On the website level, everything comes out at the same time, but they are like a few seconds apart. There's a time
staggered.
Slightly different. Right. And the news stories are first. And I'm really getting into the weeds here, but it's interesting to think about, because think through automating anything, there's always going to be things that trip you up. And I think this is the best approach. It's the most simple, because then it will just set up a queue.
You send out posts in the same way that they're uploaded to the website, essentially.
In the same way. Yeah, I'm just thinking, is there a way that we could have them come out every hour in the morning, and then every 15 minutes in the middle of the day during lunch, and how the plugin works? It's so new and it's still being modified.
Right, and that's the new plugin that's much more automated than our previous scheduling tool, right?
Exactly. Yeah, the other one we had to schedule. You could schedule also, so it wasn't necessarily a full dump at one time, but you could have it auto publish everything. And because of the way we publish on the website, they would come out all at the same time on Facebook.
Right.
Alternatively, if you were self-publishing, and this was really only good for self-service publishers, as they upload the stories to the website and schedule them to go live on the site, then they could also schedule it to go on Facebook. They could create that effect of the daily publishing on Facebook, but it was amazing.
Right.
I didn't like that, because I always want to be an automated solution whenever possible.
I mean, I think basically, personally, between the 2 tools, I would say it just depends on how big your team is and how many resources you have to devote to this.
100%. Some people actually are going to benefit from the one that requires a little bit more manual input for it to work in a very specific way because they're a larger organization. They have a more refined and established social media strategy. Maybe they're using Buffer or something that requires them to schedule it. They could just use ours and then it's all integrated with the website. So you're exactly right. I mean, this is what we've kind of concluded after several meetings, that we don't want to discontinue the old plugin. We want to still offer it. So really it's all under social media auto posts, and we're not calling it the plugin by name. It's just, this is the solution, and whatever the process is, we'll give you the right plugin. Thanks for watching Today in News Tech, the podcast covering innovation in digital journalism. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and subscribe on YouTube or any of your favorite podcast apps. We'll see you tomorrow.
At our hometown, we help newspapers build WordPress websites, design native apps, and develop digital subscription models. If you are interested in a free prototype of your publication on WordPress, go to ourhometown.com and click the Contact Us button.